What's wrong with my baby's name? After years of fertility treatments, I was finally pregnant and my husband and I were thrilled. I'd been thinking about baby names since I was 12 and had always known what I'd name my daughter. When I told my husband Ryan my choice over dinner, he stared at me for the longest time before saying, "You're joking, right?" I laughed because I thought he was teasing me about how long I'd been planning this, but his face stayed completely serious. He asked if I had a backup name and I said no, because this was the only name I'd ever wanted for a daughter. Ryan rubbed his temples like he had a headache and said, "Well, if you're absolutely sure," but he looked physically uncomfortable saying it. When I asked what was wrong with the name, he just shook his head and changed the subject. The next day, I told my mom over lunch and she literally spit out her coffee. She started coughing, and when she finally caught her breath, she asked if Ryan and I were having problems. I said no, everything was perfect, and she said, "Then why would you do that to your baby?" I asked her what she meant, and she just kept shaking her head saying she couldn't believe I was serious. She left the restaurant without finishing her meal. My sister had an even worse reaction when I told her at our weekly coffee date. She immediately pulled out her phone and started typing something, then showed me the screen asking if that's how I was planning to spell it. When I confirmed the spelling, she said, "Oh my god, you're actually serious," and started crying actual tears. She begged me to reconsider but wouldn't tell me why, except to say the baby would never forgive me. I spent hours on the internet searching for anything problematic about the name. I checked if it meant something offensive in other languages or something, but nothing came up except normal stuff about it being a traditional name with Welsh origins. There was nothing that explained why everyone was acting like I'd chosen to name my baby something horrible. At my baby shower, my aunt asked what name we'd picked, and the whole room went silent when I told them. My cousin actually gasped, and my mother-in-law left the room. My best friend Stella pulled me aside and said, "Please tell me you're pranking everyone because this isn't funny anymore." When I insisted I was serious, she said I needed professional help and left the party early. I posted in 3 different parenting forums asking if there was something wrong with the name, and every single response assumed I was trolling. The moderators deleted my posts and banned me from 2 of the forums for creating drama with obvious rage bait. One person private messaged me saying if I was serious, I should be reported. My coworkers found out when someone saw my list of baby names on my desk with only one name written on it. By lunch, everyone in the office was whispering and giving me strange looks. People stopped talking when I walked by, and someone had clearly been crying in the bathroom. Nobody would sit with me in the break room anymore. My boss called me into his office that afternoon and said several people had filed complaints about feeling uncomfortable. He said my joke about the baby name was creating a hostile work environment, and if I didn't stop telling people I was planning to use that name, he'd have to take disciplinary action. I tried to explain it wasn't a joke, but he cut me off and said, "Nobody believes you're actually going to name a baby that." I begged my husband to tell me what was wrong, but he just said if I couldn't see it myself, then maybe it was better I didn't know. When I went into labor, the admitting nurse asked for the baby's name for the paperwork, and her whole demeanor changed when I told her. She excused herself and came back with 2 other nurses who all stared at me like I was insane. One of them asked if I was sure I'd heard the name correctly from somewhere, and maybe I was confused because of the contractions. After 16 hours of labor, my beautiful daughter was born, and the delivery nurse asked what name to put on the birth certificate. She visibly flinched when I told her, but she wrote it down anyway, though her hand was shaking. She handed me the certificate to review and sign, and I could feel everyone in the room watching me with this mixture of pity and horror. I stared at the paper where she'd written in careful letters the name I'd loved my entire life. Did I just ruin my daughter's life by naming her Gwen? Full story on the channel below.